See, their faces turn villainous only when they are seen from Jiro's point of view. That means that they look like villains when seen through Jiro's lenses. Jiro's a bit condescending. And this attitude of his doesn't change till the very end of his life. Miyazaki even admits that. According to Miyazaki, during the last days of Jiro's life, he had a bad reputation as a professor. He had a weak voice, and students couldn't hear him. When the first commercial aircraft, YS-11, was developed, he was asked to be in charge of the tail. And according to the team, Jiro only ever talked about his Zero fighter planes. He was obsessed with the past and never developed anything new. Matao Sanuki, an aeronautical engineer, who was also a great aeronautical journalist, talks about Jiro's last years in an article. Jiro was a bit too snobbish and never talked about himself. He never listened to other people's advice. People all over the world praised him as a genius who had once played an essential part in the aviation industry. But as time passed, he became a lonely old man and turned his back on the world. That's how I see it. Jiro has a strong sense of justice, and he is honest, and he is easy for us to relate to. But at the same time, he has this different side as well. Miyazaki chose this complex character as his last protagonist. But, as I said, he wasn't a bad boy at all. After all, he confronts the bullies. After Jiro plays this one-arm shoulder throw trick on one of the boys, he gets badly beaten. And when he's asked by his mother what happened, he just says, "I fell." He doesn't tell her that he was in a fight. He doesn't complain that he lost the fight. He has a strong will to take action, but he doesn't talk much. So he goes home. He tells his mother that he fell, and his mother just says, "Eat your snack." His little sister Kayo is playing in the yard. Kayo comes up to him and says, "Play with me, you promised." But he ignores her. The babysitter, she is the same age as Jiro. She has to look after his sister. She's a girl from the country living with this family as a housekeeper. "Welcome home, Jiro," she says, but Jiro doesn't answer. When this film was released, I talked about why Jiro is so rude to his own sister. Because he usually helps girls in trouble. Even when he was busy designing planes, he would say something like, "Would you like some sweets?" But he was always cold and never kind to his own little sister. He's impolite to his servants as well. When you look at all the previous Ghibli films, whenever a servant says, "Welcome home," the master would always say something back. But in this film, Jiro ignores her. This attitude is very similar to Cagliostro in The Castle of Cagliostro. He dehumanizes the servants. He completely shuts out people he considers worthless. Jiro doesn't mind sacrificing Japanese citizens for his dream. So I personally call Jiro Horikoshi the young Cagliostro. The Castle of Cagliostro is Miyazaki's first film, and 34 years after, he creates a new version of Cagliostro to portray the other side of Count Cagliostro. Cagliostro is so attractive as a villain because Miyazaki's personal feelings are reflected everywhere in his speeches. This time, he tried casting Cagliostro as the protagonist. You would never have imagined that Cagliostro is the protagonist here. 6 years ago, when this film was released, we weren't ready for this. But now I guess we are more trained and ready to accept this type of story. Kayo keeps saying, "But you promised, brother." But Jiro never looks at her. Not even once. He's reading the magazine he got from his teacher. In it, you see the Italian aircraft designer, Count Gianni Caproni. Count means that he is a landowner. Jiro finds an article about him. That night, Jiro has a life-changing encounter. I have to end the free part now because it's already been 55 minutes. So, Jiro finds Caproni's article. Now, it's still only the first 7 minutes of the film, but you can already see that The Wind Rises is very different from all the other Ghibli films. So, please watch it again from a different perspective. It is not subjective. The protagonist is depicted from an objective point of view to keep the audience at a distance. I mean, this protagonist is not even one of Miyazaki's alter egos. He's not an ideal character either. He's depicted as a cold guy who only shows interest in girls who are in his league. So it is very raw in a way. He takes it for granted that he's born into a rich family and abuses that privilege. That's why he's so cold towards his sister and the servant. But on the other hand, he can be very kind to the disadvantaged. And he feels inferior to the others because of his poor eyesight. But he's an honest guy with a strong sense of justice. As you can see, Miyazaki has never created a character as complex as this one. This is something completely new for him. Although, in a way, you could say that Jiro is a bit similar to Seita in Grave of the Fireflies. The protagonist Jiro dreams about, Caproni, that night. What does Caproni say to him? If you look at the storyboard, it says an extreme close-up of Caproni that shows his madness, like Mephistopheles. This is a note that Miyazaki wrote in the storyboard, so it's his direction. I'd like to talk about it more in the next limited part. Now the questionnaire.